Hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name is TVP and I'd like to show you guys something really cool, a set of mine that's called Frontiers of Eternity. Now, Frontiers of Eternity is the second set in the what is meant to be a three-set block of sets for the Venomoth storyline, which, if you've never seen the prior Venomoth Eternities, which is the first set in the blocks, don't worry, I'll have a video made on that soon enough. However, let's just go ahead and get right into what you can expect out of the set named Frontiers of Eternity. So first off, as you can clearly see, there's two very distinct things happening here on this one design. So the first thing that you'll notice is a new mana symbol, and that is the symbol for silver. It is denoted with the letter I. Silver is a new and sixth color in Magic the Gathering that was designed by me. And I've been designing this color for about 2 to 3-ish years. A little bit of history, it originally started as colorless. Eventually I came to the realization that it is a lot harder than you'd think to make colorless cards, and I ended up moving on to making a new color. Silver was able to be cast with colorless mana, but that was eventually changed as well, because then that is a mechanic that you wouldn't really expect out of anything. Regardless, we have here a design called Probe the Veil. So this is a rare. Not all of the rares are currently done in Venomoth Frontiers, but that is fine. First mechanic, obviously, was the fact that silver is in the set. This is not the first set, notably, to have the color silver, and it has a lot of background behind how it's possible to use in the settings that you would have for your custom planes. But we'll just go ahead and move on to the next piece. We have a mechanic here called Sanctum. So you're probably wondering, what the hell is the Sanctum? Where am I getting these cards that I'm exchanging with my hand? I'm exchanging a number of cards with my hand with my Sanctum. Where are these cards coming from? What is the Sanctum? So I'll go ahead and just read it out for you. The Sanctum it consists of up to 7 unique cards, notably, so all of them must be different, that have the ability to start in the Sanctum. I'll show you a design that can start in the Sanctum a little bit later, but first we must mention as well, this is not an ordered deck, so the start of the game, you have your Sanctum that is chosen, so your up to 7 unique cards, you place them face down, and you go ahead and play the game as normal. There is a secondary mechanic with the Sanctum that allows you to sideboard cards in and out of your Sanctum, and this does let you just take your whole Sanctum, throw it in your deck. So again, 7 unique cards. These are outside of sideboarding. I wanted to respect the space that is used for the sideboard, as I feel that is just a integral part of the game. And if something like this would exist, I feel that it would be separated from the sideboard. We'll go ahead and continue. That is a bit of a hotter take, and is something that I'm still testing. This is a very actively developed mechanic, and to this day we are still seeing changes. So I don't believe there will be any major changes in the foreseeable future, but if there are changes, you'll know where to look. So we've mentioned that the Sanctum exists, we've mentioned that silver exists, and now you have to ask the question of, well, can I see some examples of cards that can start in the Sanctum? And you absolutely can. This card can. And as you can see, there's quite a few designs here. But if we go ahead and look at the rarity breakdown, there are a decent amount of them that are common. You can definitely see some lands. There's a decent amount of them that are uncommon, I would even argue more. And of course you see a reasonable amount of rares. Like I said, the rares are still being worked on at this point, but we'll definitely get a lot more through, and by the time this set is ready to draft yet again, we will have a full suite. So I pulled up Crescent, I pulled up Enlightened Crescent, but we actually want to look at Bosket Peak first. So this is one of the cards that can start in it. It is the Realm type. It's a subtype of enchantments. Now, notably, you don't need to have a subtype or a type to start in the Sanctum. You can just have a card state that it can start in the Sanctum, but this is the way that I wanted to do it for the set. For the most part, there's only one outlier that breaks this rule. But as you can see, we're also using the new wording when this, and we use this realm here. You are paying 3 mana to make a 3/1 red worm creature token. Not the best rate, but you are getting it off of an enchantment enters at ETB, so do have that. And for 4 mana, you can go ahead and transform it. Now, in this set file, I do have the DFCs, the MDFCs. They are manually separated, so we can just go ahead and pull up Fervent. Oh, well, not Fervent Camming. Peaks of War. And as you can see, Peaks of War has the upside of, at the beginning of combat on your turn, up to one target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. And this is something that you can expect to see at common. So again, if you want to understand what we're looking at, you have a card, a unique card that can start in your Sanctum. So let's say you do have this start in your Sanctum. You have 1 copy in your Sanctum, and you can have a max of 3 other copies elsewhere, as the 4-card max rule still applies. And during gameplay, let's say, for example, you're going a little bit later in the game, or maybe you're just turn 3, turn 4 doing this, you can go ahead and transform it into Peaks of War to get a little bit more advantage out of your design, your card. Now you may be asking, how do you get this card out? We'll go ahead and explain that in just a moment, but I have shown you a realm. Let's go ahead and show you a frontier, as that is what the namesake of the set is. I believe let's just look at something relatively simple like Glittering Veil. So, you've definitely seen this card before. I believe it's called Radiant Fountain or Angelic Fountain. I do not remember the original name of the design, but Glittering Veil is a design that can start in your Sanctum. As you can see, it does have a new frame treatment here, and just has, when this land enters, you gain 2 life, and it can tap and add colorless. Very simple design. Very simple design, and definitely something that you might consider getting into your Sanctum, as 2 life is definitely a good amount of life to save you or stymie a little bit of the aggro that will definitely be coming your way if you're dirtling a little bit too much. So we have the Glittering Veil, as we saw. We have a Frontier. The third set of cards that can start in your Sanctum is actually a very interesting one. So native to the plane of Venomoth, there are these cards, creatures called icons. Now, icons are really cool. They have a whole visual design behind them, and they are all they're all enchantment creatures. As you can see, Rising Haze is just a simple 3-mana 2/3 flyer. But because it has the ability to start into the Sanctum, it does give you a little bit more control over, gives you a little bit more control over where you want this card to go. You could definitely draft this in the main deck, but you're 100% looking at putting this into the Sanctum. Now, knowing that you can put this into the Sanctum, how do you get it out? So we can go ahead and show you this. We have a few mechanics here, but I will go ahead and show you the first. Draft is the first major mechanic. So as you can see on a card called Droth Explorer, a 2-mana 2/2 in red, it has, when it enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draft a card from your Sanctum, and the draft mechanic has you choose 3 cards at random from your Sanctum, you put 1 into your hand. And this is a must condition, you must put the card in your hand. Now, the interesting thing about draft is that there is, technically speaking, an optimum way of setting up your Sanctum. So, for example, let's say you have 1 or 2 cards that you always want to be able to get. You can set your Sanctum to 3, as in you only put 3 unique cards into your Sanctum. Whenever you use the draft mechanic, you immediately go grab, that 1 or 2 cards. Obviously, you would have to draft again to get the second one, but because you have a small Sanctum, you can always guarantee that you get those cards. Now, what is the downside to doing that? Well, the downside to doing that is that you lose quite a bit of strength when it comes to later game options, although if you are an aggro-focused deck, you may not need those options. So we'll just see pretty much how that ends up going. As a great example as well as Seasoned Flamefinder is definitely a design that will get you there, because it is another way 2-mana 2/2. However, in this case, it has prowess, and when it attacks, you can discard a card to do the same thing as Droth Explorer. So I've shown you draft. Are there any other ways to get cards out of your Sanctum? There absolutely are. Notably, all cards that say that you can draw a card from your Sanctum also allow you to draw a card from your library. So just give you a way to use the card, and if you don't have a Sanctum, you can still get some value out of it. So you can see this is a silver spell, 1 and a silver, or if you were looking for the notation, it's like red would be R, silver is I. It has tap target creature as an instant, put a stun counter on it, and you draw a card from your Sanctum or library and then discard it. Really cool card. It definitely has a little bit more variance in that case, as if you are running a full 7-card Sanctum, you're definitely going to get less consistent draws, but you're also more likely to get something that is relevant. And in this case, if you have a single card Sanctum and you're playing cards like Captivate, well, you can always guarantee that you can get the card. But again, like I said, Draft has more choice, Captivate has less. Draw from Sanctum is definitely a weaker version, but it will get you a little bit more out of it. Now, there's another card type that will put itself into the Sanctum. This is different than starting in the Sanctum, and I did mention that cards can go there. In the set, we have these cards that have an adventure-like part of them called focuses. Now, focuses are always going to be instants or sorceries, and they can be stuck on pretty much anything. It can be an artifact, it can be a creature, it can be a sorcery even, with another sorcery. And it does give me, as a designer, a lot of control over what kind of things get promoted in the set. And here we have the expected, Tormenting Voice. So here we can focus on any particular design, here we can focus on any particular strategy. Here we have our expected Tormenting Voice, and with this focus, Unburdened, you can give a creature +1/+1 in haste. There's actually a lot of haste granting in this set, something that I will be looking at in the future, but the idea is that you have a way to use your would be slightly weaker thing than you would expect in the canon effect, the canon, sort of 2024 designs. However, the way that these cards work is that they act as split cards in your hand, so you can cast either side from your hand, and then you put the whole card into your Sanctum. So if I cast Unburdened, I will put that into my Sanctum, but if I cast Dance of Discovery, I will just put that right into my graveyard, as you expect, because it is not a focus. So we have ways of getting cards out. There's also ways of, of course, you can just draw them, you can draft them. Rusted Cultivator shows both mechanics on the cards to give you an idea of what's going on. Now, there are definitely other mechanics in the set. One of the biggest ones, because we have ways of getting lands directly from the Sanctum. So if you can consistently get lands, well, what does that mean for the overall gameplay? Should you focus on those lands? Definitely should. So let's go ahead and show a common. I believe we can go ahead and show Myral Explorer. So for a single silver mana, you can get a 1/1. Not exactly the best. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. I meant to pick an Explorer card, but instead we have Luminous. That's fine, we can go ahead and show off Luminous. Luminous is a mainstay for any Venomoth set, as Venomoth is very color-focused, color-centric, and it really does promote you to focus on monocolor when you have the opportunity. Of course, if you do have multicolor permanents, this is also just another way to get colors for Luminous. And here, Myral Explorer has this fun text of becoming a very iconic card when you do Illuminate Silver. So you can get that pretty consistently if you know what you're doing, though it's definitely harder nowadays. Alright, unfortunately I did name quite a few cards Explorer, but we'll go ahead and show off a design that is marrying a lot of different mechanics together. So we have a realm, an enchantment realm with that. So again, pretty much every single realm in the set will be able to start in the Sanctum. And here you have a 1-drop that has 2, tap, draw a card, and discard a card. Then you add 1 mana of any color. But you may be asking, well, what does Explorer do here? We have Explorer to tap, transform this realm, and you can only activate this if you control 5 or more differently named lands. So that's the thing the Explorer mechanic is promoting, having multiple different lands and just getting a lot more diversity in your mana base, to also push against just running, maybe 4 specific lands and that's about it. And it'll get you what you're looking for. Here we have Windworn Peaks, and well, if you're wondering what Windworn Peaks becomes, it is quite a good card to transform, as you do get to draw and discard, or discard a card to draw a card and add a mana of any type. So it's the same effect as the front side, although in this case, when it transforms and at the beginning of your first main phase. As you can see, I missed a crucial word here, and that is one of the fun things about designing custom Magic cards. You learn a lot, and you also make mistakes, and those are completely fine to make. So yeah, at the beginning of your first main phase, you get to discard a card to draw a card and add a mana of any type. Very good card that helps you keep your deck going. In Limited, this is definitely a design that I would say can be an all-star if you're picking it where you need it. And if you're able to consistently get it out, let's say from your Sanctum, or if you just feel like you should draw into it a little bit more, you definitely get a lot of value out of it. So now we've shown off Explorer as a concept. We've shown off the Sanctum as a concept. We also have ways of getting cards out, like with Draft. We have ways of getting cards out with Draw. Are there any other mechanics that might be missing here? Well, let's just go ahead and move to the keyword section. So you see quite a few things here. Unfortunately, not all of these are in play, but we do have something called Sift, and I'll go ahead and pull up a card with Sift now, as Sift is a really cool way of interacting with the Sanctum as well. So as you can see, we have a fairly standard card, 1 and a blue to enchant a creature and give it -3/-0, but when this aura enters, you do a mechanic, do an action called Sifting. So here we're sifting 2 cards, we look at the top 2, we can put any number of them into the Sanctum and the rest back on top in any order. So this is just a way of binning, or air quotes, binning a card, similar to how Surveil puts a card into your graveyard, in order to potentially get some kind of advantage of it from it later on down the line. As you can see, Dreamgale Salamander also triggers off of that. It itself having a focus gives you another way of using it. But you also have cards like Embracing Intonation, which is a beast icon that whenever you attack, you get to sift 1. And it gives you just a little bit more control over your top decks, but later down the line, when you do have cards that can get cards out of your Sanctum, you can definitely utilize that upside. As noted as well, if you notice, the focuses all put themselves into the Sanctum when you cast the focus side. So there are, and what I've been working on with the uncommons is a set of cards that will go ahead and get out some of the cards that you have put into the Sanctum. Because I've noticed that there is definitely a lot less of a want or need to really get things out. So let's just take a look. This is actually a great example of a design that will get you pretty far in draft, considering it is just a generic good value piece. But as you go further down, we can also just see a few interesting designs. This is another card that lets you sift, just another way of getting stuff into your Sanctum. Another example as well. A Discover Uncertainty doesn't sift, but it does look at the top 3 and put 1 in your hand, 1 on top, and 1 into the Sanctum. We'll go ahead and just keep going through these until we do see something up. And here we are. Haphazard and Unbound is a 1 in red sorcery that says exile 2 random cards from your Sanctum. Till the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. So in red, you just have a way of getting to cast or play cards from your Sanctum, but it does require a little bit of work. And as you noticed, a lot of the red cards require just a little bit more work than you'd expect in order to get out of the some of the cards that you've put into your Sanctum out. Light and Power Stone definitely breaks the mold here, where it is able to allow you to cast spells with mana value 5 or greater directly from your Sanctum. It also has the ability to copy triggered abilities that trigger when a creature entered under your control. Very good card, assuming that you have good ways of putting 5 mana value cards into your Sanctum, as just well as being a value piece for decks that are trying to focus on enters the battlefield triggers. Have another draft card. Spiral Rebirth is yet another way of drafting. And if you do have creatures that start in your Sanctum, which we do have with the icons, though those are definitely a lot less high value, you can definitely get, if you can find a way to discard them, into your graveyard to reanimate them. But realistically, you're going to be choosing a card that helps you survive long enough until you can do that. Alright, and we're just trying to find one more card that, yep, here we are. Outlands Restorer is another example of a design that lets you cast stuff from your Sanctum. Though this one has some downsides in the way that you get it out. So when it enters, you may put target creature card in your graveyard into your Sanctum. Whenever another creature enters under your control, you gain a life. And as long as you've gained 3 or more life this turn, you may cast a creature card from your Sanctum with mana value 3 or less. This turn would mean both players' turns, or all 4 players' turns, just assuming that in the turn cycle, in that turn specifically, you were able to gain 3 or more life. And this does let you cast cards with Flash, so if you can gain 3 life on your opponent's turn, it means that you can cast creature cards from your Sanctum directly, assuming they have Flash. But here we have Outlands Restorer just being a really good example of a way to get some of the value back from all the times that you've been sifting or casting focus cards, and just get somewhere with the many bits of upside you have. Breath of the Lunar World is another example of this, where you get to freeze something, and later down the line, once they eventually either bounce their creature or you bounce their creature or it dies in some way, shape, or form, you go ahead and draft a card. One of the final mechanics in the set is Evoke. It is actually placing a little bit more, it's been placed at Uncommon and up, and while it was a bit more of a late addition to the set, I actually think the set is a lot better for it. As you can see, Evoke is done at lower cost to higher cost, and all of the evokes in the set are actually hybrid. So that does mean that there are exactly 15 cards with Evoke, excluding the hidden guy down there, Winding Guide. And of course, Skyskiff Flying Fish, but we'll explain that a little later. Here we have an example of a demon enchantment creature that has, when being tested, shown a lot of success and just a very interesting design as well. You can play this in mono white, you can play this in mono black, or you can just choose to splash white or black in your white or black deck to just get a little bit more value out of it by being able to cast it. And it is a 4-mana 3/3 lifelink menace with the upside, so I wouldn't be surprised if people found a reason to play this. Now, as Menethil Demon enters, you look at an opponent's hand and you choose a non-land card from it to exile. As long as that card remains exiled, they can cast it, but it costs 2 more. And it's just a way to slow down your opponent. It does cost you 2 mana to make them pay 2 more mana, but at that point, it's a sacrifice you're willing to pay, considering the fact that you might need to slow down their aggression, or you might need to slow down their removal in interaction. And you have quite a few individual designs that are very interesting for the set, but I think I'll go ahead and just leave it there and leave it as Skyskiff Flying Fish, which is another example of a rare that shows you some of the interesting mechanics. Now, Dig 5 may eventually be replaced, and it was a good experiment, and this is one of the things that I would like to point out. When you're designing cards for your set, and when you're just designing cards in general, it is always a great idea to just go ahead and test things. Find out what's interesting, find out what you're not as interested in, and really just get a feel for what you like to design. And understanding what you like to design is the first way to guarantee that you are going to be able to get somewhere with what you're doing, as well as just having fun. Skyskiff Flying Fish is a great example of that, as this is a design that is based off of some funny context, uh, me and another user named Kagane Ikumo were designing custom Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and one of the uh, archetypes that was designed by Kagane was an archetype called Skyskiff, and Skyskiff Flying Fish was a design in that set of cards that had definitely different effects than what is shown here in Magic the Gathering, but it was another chance to test for digging and seeing if it was worth using dig instead of just writing it all out. But you do have to search for a permanent card, and it's just got a little bit more play to it. Like I said, later down the line, this might end up getting replaced with a different mechanic or just completely different text, as the design itself may not need that. But the experiment was worth doing, and I'm glad that we did it. Regardless, thank you all for your time. It's been a great day today. My name is TVP, and I'll see you guys later.